Welcome to the Healthy Way Podcast with Shahi. I'm your host, Shahi Taruti. My intention with this podcast is to teach and inspire you to reach your maximum potential in your health and life and to become the healthiest and best version of you. I will be interviewing world-class international experts in the health and wellness global community. Our topics include lifestyle, nutrition, fitness, mindset, and spirituality. Periodically, I will also be tackling health topics that I'm passionate about sharing with you. Either way, you're in for a treat. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our time together. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Healthy Way Podcast with Shahi. Today, I have a guest that I've met online, and I'm so excited to be introducing her to you today. And she's Jodi Bullock. Hello, Jodi. So happy to have you on my show today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So Jodi is actually an intuitive health coach, and she's also a plant-based cook and consultant, and she also passionate about showing the world how to eat, which is super exciting. And I think we have this in common in a way, since we're both health coaches. So, but what I'd like to have Jodi share with you today is her story about how she managed to heal her body, actually. And I'll leave her to explain to us her story and share with us her story. Jodi, why don't you tell us how you managed to heal your body with food?
Sure. Well, it's a process. My story, I think, is kind of interesting because I definitely didn't grow up knowing really anything about food or anything about health, actually. I live in the Midwest in the United States, and both of my parents grew up on farms. And so all of my grandparents are farmers. And you know, in some ways that means you eat closer to the earth, right? You eat more from the land, like the things that they were growing in the fields and etc. But we didn't live on a farm. So while that part of the cultural food mentality was there, I was still a kid and ate a bunch of junk food like everybody else, like too many kids, right, these days. So my diet was mainly made up of a lot of red meat and corn and, you know, some vegetables, but just pretty heavy, I would say. And then lots of sugar. So I never had outright health issues, at least that I was aware of. As a kid, I was just a kid and nothing was wrong. When I got into I would say junior high school, I gained a lot of weight just because I don't know, I wasn't that active, and it was just all the junk food and the more sedentary lifestyle. When you're in school, you're just kind of sitting there. And then I didn't have any friends because I had to change school. So I was eating my feelings. And so I felt all of a sudden, I just remember sort of waking up and being oh, I feel gross, you know? And so my initial relationship, why I'm talking about this, is because it matters that I still didn't know what food was to our bodies. But at my first interaction really with focusing on food and health was because I wanted to lose weight. And this happened when I was in college. And so I lost weight, but it was just by eating less and eating more vegetables and stuff. But my mom was doing Weight Watchers, and so I read her little book, and I was oh, okay. So they kind of were preaching at the time low fat, and so that was when the government had replaced a lot of fat with sugar or artificial sugars. So I was consuming everything that was sugar free, low fat yogurt, and everything had Splenda in it, and just low calorie. And I mean, I lost weight. I definitely lost weight, but I didn't do it in a healthy way. And I think that this matters to the story because in that process, it was just another set of years, day after day, right? That the choices that I was making weren't giving my cells, my tissues, my organs, anything really,
Nourishing.
nourishing, right?
Mhm.
Strongly, like, functional. I mean, sure, I would eat broccoli and carrots and stuff, but like I had so many toxins in my diet because I didn't eat organic. I didn't know about organic.
Mhm.
I was consuming, like I said, all these artificial sugars and like diet pop, and it was just about calories, and that was like what a lot of people believed at the time. So
Yes,
fast
sure.
forward
Mhm.
um, fast forward to about, gosh, I got married in 2007. So a
Mhm.
few years after that, and my husband and I were thinking about starting a family. Well, there was a big problem because I never got my period, and
Mhm.
I hadn't really gotten it for my whole life. I mean, just like random times. There was no consistency to it. It was just sporadic, and I definitely wasn't ovulating. So that makes it hard to have a baby.
Of
So
course. Yeah.
I got, like my regular doctor quickly passed me off to the reproductive endocrinologist. And, they told me nothing about my diet. They told me nothing about what fertility is inside the body. And basically just had me try like, um, medicine first. And then eventually, they told me that I had to do IVF or there was no chance.
Mhm.
And that's like devastating to anyone, I would guess, to hear like that something's wrong with you, your body's broken, and maybe you'll never have a family. Um,
Of course. Yeah, I
it,
can imagine.
yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
And then the other weird part of it is that I was still in the health industry. So,
Mm.
in undergrad, I studied exercise science and not necessarily nutrition. I think I had a sports nutrition class, but I used to be a dancer. And so I kind of fell into the world of Pilates, and I became a Pilates instructor, and I had a Pilates studio for 11 years. And so I thought I felt healthy. I had loads of energy. I had run a marathon. I was in shape. I worked out. I thought I ate right. And so it was like extra hard to take that. Like I was like, why? I just
Mhm.
didn't understand
You
why.
you thought you were doing all the right things, right?
Yeah, I did. I
Mhm.
really did. And that's one of the hardest things for me in that time was the not understanding and the not knowing,
Mm.
and just having people like doctors look at you and be like, well, there's nothing you can do. Like, you have to do this. You have to do all these drugs and medicines and hormones. And my whole like body was like, no, like it just was not wanting that. And sure, like I had seen, are you familiar with Juliana Rancic from E! News?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, she and her husband, went through fertility stuff, and they had a TV show at the time, and it was like while we were going through it. And so I had watched their show, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh my gosh, she had a horrible situation. Like, she almost like had her ovaries explode." And so I had like really bad perspective about what IVF would be
Okay.
like, and so therefore
Yeah.
I created that,
Mm.
with my
Yeah.
beliefs. So we ended up doing it, and it was just, oh, it was so
Okay.
long and drawn out, and my body did not respond well, let's just say. But that comes back to actually getting and knowing like what a lot of fertility issues are rooted in, which is
Mm.
toxic overload,
Right.
and so I've already had like my poor liver was like burdened to the max, and then here I come shooting hormones in my body day
Mm.
after day, and it couldn't process them, and it couldn't handle the synthetic parts of the meds and the drugs. And I just like my body just what happened is what I coach my clients on, which is what I call the tipping point, where it can only take so much before the symptoms spill out, right?
Yeah.
And like everything just feels like a cascade of yuck.
Mhm.
So my digestive system went like out of whack. I was bloated constantly. I would get stomach cramps and stomach pain all the time. So whereas I used to be able to go run anywhere for however long I wanted. I could hardly go on a walk without having to literally lay on my back on the grass because my stomach hurt so badly. And I gained weight from like the drugs and the hormones. And I basically just felt like this is not my body. I don't know whose body this is. And, there's the emotions and the stress of the pressure from it
Sure.
and the anxiety from it. And then that plays into our bodies. And
It's
so
too
it was
much to
just,
handle, really. I can.
I like get upset thinking about it again. It was just like,
Yeah.
whoa. Like,
Yeah.
so glad it's over. But,
Yeah.
I was in it. And
Mm.
the whole time I was in it, I was just like, why is this happening? Because I just didn't have the perspective and I didn't have the knowledge and the training. And the other part was that I was a dietitian.
Of course.
So I had gone back to school, but like a dietitian is not the same as a holistic nutritionist.
Yeah.
I was trained in,
Mhm.
basically medical nutrition therapy, which is like how to deal with disease states, not, by the way, you can cure any disease.
That's a totally different perspective. Then why don't you tell us what was the turning point? What happened next?
What happened? Yeah. I couldn't take it anymore. We basically had gone through IVF 4 times and it wasn't working. I had, they were all failed attempts. And then one time I was pregnant for about 6 weeks and miscarried. And then we were set to do it one more time. And I just couldn't take it. Like I just said to God, I was like, I'm done. Like this, I can't do it. It's obviously the definition of insanity to keep doing the same thing over and over.
Right? Isn't it?
And it doesn't work anyway. Yeah. And we were burnt out. My husband and I were burnt out. And I told him, I can't do this. I need a break and I need to figure out what's going on with my body. And he was like, sure. So, and it's so funny, right? Because when you really decide something, then the universe rushes in to get behind your new decision.
Yeah, I totally believe that.
Yep. And so it wasn't like, but a couple days after that, we had called the doctors to say, like, we're not doing this anymore, or at least right now, that I started to like be introduced, like through a good friend of my sister's, this mentor, this holistic doctor. He was from California. And it was like, all of a sudden the scales fell off my eyes and I saw everything.
Okay.
Like I started to learn, I learned about what toxins are in our food, on our food, around our food, what foods are doing in our bodies or actually not doing in our bodies, and how there were chemicals like everywhere. And, not just on my food, like, sure, don't drink diet pop, but your makeup, your skincare, your shampoo, everything.
And even the air we breathe, the water we drink.
Oh, wow. Because I had, I don't know about you, if you were just always in the holistic world or not, but I had some friends who had started to like navigate into more clean lifestyle living. And, it's funny because.
I mean, I've always been into health and nutrition, but only 5 years ago is when I started seeing things differently, really, and realizing exactly what we're doing to our bodies with all the sorts of reading all the wrong labels and just believing the labels and without going into what goes into the ingredients that goes into the products that we use. So
right. So it's so funny because even when I was doing my internship as a dietitian, where I did my internship, we weren't allowed to recommend organic food because they thought that it would make people feel bad if they couldn't afford it. But, and still, like, a lot of people were just saying, oh, organic food doesn't matter. It's just more expensive. And I was like, whoa, okay. But then it's like, wow, there's pesticides sprayed on this apple and I'm eating it, day after day. So I'll try to speed up my story, but basically I realized what I had been living and doing to my body, and that all the medication from the fertility treatments had just like pushed me over the edge, and that what my body really needed was simple, clean, whole foods, mostly plants, and to detox and to cleanse. And so I just started changing everything. Like I stopped eating all fake sugar. I stopped eating lots of sugar. I stopped eating gluten. I stopped eating dairy. I stopped consuming most red meat. I really reduced the amount of animal protein that I ate. I did see strong reaction to them because of how powerful they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started to, it felt literally and physically like a fog was lifting off of me.
Yeah,
And that very much tied into my emotional state as well, because
of course.
I just think it's so hard for people to feel like their true self when they're in a body that's carrying all this junk and toxins and inflammation, and it's not their real body. And like it's so hard to be our true self, which is the vibration of lightness and
Exactly.
joy, when we're burdened down by all these physical elements, and then it just sort of is wrapped up in our emotional state and our moods.
Sure, which brings me really to something that I always see you talking about, and I admire that the fact that you really believe about the vibration of food, which is just as strong as our emotions and thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
how they affect our bodies. So Jodi, why don't you tell us about how much you believe in the vibration of food and the fact that you believe they're as strong as our thoughts and our emotion and how they affect our bodies. So I'd like to hear from you what you think about the energetics of food and how it affects our bodies.
Yeah, yeah. So I've started to look at food energetically, not as like calories, not as just how many grams of protein or whatever is in this or that. So whenever I'm coaching people, I try to teach it this way now, that if you want to be healthy, which is having energy in your body and having longevity in your body and having a symptom free body that feels good all the time, you have to understand that health is on a high frequency. It's a high vibrational state of being.
Mm-hmm.
And just like when people talk about manifesting money, that wealth is a higher frequency than poverty. um, Health
Mm-hmm.
and wellness is a high frequency where disease and sickness is not. And so what you want to do is look at your food as a way to infuse your body with high frequency, so it's so much easier to be healthy, to
Yeah.
have that in your body in a natural way all the time. And so the foods that are the highest vibration are your fruits and your vegetables, are all plants, because they're real, they're alive, they were grown in nature, and nothing was done to them artificially. So you
Mm-hmm.
can look at foods, and it's not like, oh, is an orange higher vibration than an apple? It's not like that at all. They all have high vibrations and special energies and things that they do to
Mm-hmm.
shift us physically and emotionally and spiritually inside. But if you look at the way that a lot of people eat these days, it's so dead. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
vibrational food. It's not like, macaroni and cheese that's made in a factory with yellow food dye. That's not real. That's nothing to the body. The body doesn't want any part of that.
Sure.
So if you can just tune into what your cells are truly calling for,
Mm-hmm.
then you will have a much easier time
For
changing your
sure.
health.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love how you put it. So could you tell us how, when you changed, because we know now that you managed to heal your body from fertility issues, but and we also know how you realize the energetics behind food and the vibration it carries and how it can lead us to having a healthy body and enjoy really a state of wellness. So can you give us like the direct relation between you changing your diet and you healing your fertility issues, and how can people maybe who are having this similar issue, how can they start taking different steps towards healing their bodies like you did?
Yeah. Okay. So I think this has to do with understanding why or what is going on when you have a different conditions in your health that you don't want. So with fertility, it's mainly around your liver and it's mainly around your adrenals. And everybody has to understand how to have a healthy digestive system. So that's why I specialize in the gut, but I mean, it just overlaps. Then from there, you can kind of move outward into the other parts of the body. But if you don't have a healthy digestive system, you're like possibly missing out on the nutrients from the good foods that you eat.
Totally.
You
Yes.
are, like things are sluggish. Everything's harder to move energy. So
It really
it
affects
was,
everything. Yeah, it's like our
yeah,
second brain. Our gut is our really second brain. So it really
right.
affects everything.
It
Yeah.
does. It does. It's like the hub. It's like the energetic core. So I had to eat in a way that allowed my digestive system to pick up speed, to extract nutrients really well, to flush out, bad bacteria and viral matter and stuff. And it was a process of really flushing my liver. So 2 tips for people that want to um, fast track their liver health,
Yeah.
that would be cutting down on animal protein and fat big time. And then also just cutting down on, it's sort of like I just expect people to get that they need to cut out all fake food, like stop
Yeah.
eating stuff out of boxes and bags.
When you say fat, do you mean all kinds of fat?
No, not necessarily all kinds of fat, but predominantly you have to understand that when the liver is trying to process all that it does every day, your diet, it's like you don't want to give it extra work. You don't want to give it extra stuff to deal with. And so when you already have health issues, you need to pay attention to your liver. When you already have fertility stuff, you need to pay attention to your liver. So that means don't make it harder because it needs to catch up to speed to be in its prime state again. So cut down on animal protein because 1, it's high in protein, and 2, it's high in fat. And the proteins and fat are the hardest things for the body to break down and handle.
Sometimes high on hormones as well. And
Right. And that's a huge piece of it. Thank you for saying that, because if you're eating a burger, that burger came from a cow that has its own adrenals, that has its own adrenaline, that has its own hormones, and you're trying to balance your own. And it's like, don't bring it into the picture. That's a good point. So it's cutting down on fat, cutting down on animal protein by a lot, and then infusing plants, like, those places you can go and get like IV drips now for like vitamins. Your diet should be an IV drip vitamins. It should be full of green juices and smoothies and fruit for fertility. You can't be eating 1 serving of fruit a day if you want to change your fertility. It's got to be more than that. And if you think about fruits and vegetables are plants, and most of our diet needs to be plants because we're human, not because we want to lose weight or we wanted this or we wanted that. Those are side effects. You need to eat this way because you're a human and that's how you're built. That's your fuel. And so I guess those would be like my biggest tips for turning around fertility. And it's like this: you don't have to know all the little details about what your body's doing, because I don't want people to get too wrapped up in doing it right or wrong. Like, am I eating the wrong vegetable? Am I eating the wrong fruits? It's not that complicated. Your job is to just load up on as much of it as you can and trust that your body knows what to do. Your body is always doing the best it can for you. And if right now your body is not doing very well, that it's just giving you messages that it needs you to pay attention and to do more for it.
Right. And Jodi, how long did it take you to go through this healing process?
I don't know. Let me think. And the funny part was, like, I never said, oh, okay, I'm gonna turn around my fertility with my food. I just said to myself, I feel like crap and I refuse to feel bad, because I had experienced feeling really good, and I will never take that for granted again.
Yeah.
So my goal and my intention was, I need to feel good. And I think if people can look at it that way, like, I deserve to be healthy, that means I deserve to feel good every day, all day, and not even just feel okay. I should feel really good every day, and my body should not hold me back from doing anything in my life.
Yeah.
So
It's
it
all
was
about the
probably,
decision, really. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
it
where it
is.
starts. Mm.
It is. It always is. And so I guess I'd say, I mean, your body responds really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the thing that was, as far as fertility goes, that was like still making it, I think, linger, was all of the emotions around it for me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the fear of,
Mm-hmm.
what if I couldn't have a
Mm-hmm.
baby, and would it be hard, and all of that garbage. It's not garbage, it's just so real. And that's why,
Mm-hmm.
when you want to change your health, it's like you've got to get in your head just as much as your
Sure.
gut.
Mindset is right. I think mindset is always 90% of the whole
Yeah.
success, really. So that's also something to work on as well.
Yeah. But I mean,
Um,
I did turn it around. So like now I always get my cycle regularly. I ovulate. I don't have cramps. I don't
that's
have like bad,
fantastic, Judy.
you
That's a
know.
really impressive story. I mean, you did really. That's a miracle. You just you just
Yeah.
made a miracle, really. Um, Quite an impressive story. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us about how your food really healed your fertility, and like final thoughts that you'd like to leave us with?
I think it was really an overall purification of my system. Just coming back to everything that's real. And
Mhm.
I look at that every single day. And when I see food this way, when I see my body this way, it just makes everything so simple. There's no battle in my mind where, oh, I want to eat this, but it's bad for me, or I want to eat this, but I shouldn't.
Mhm.
It's all lined up with, is this going to make me healthier? Is this going to make me feel good? Or is this going to slow me down
Yeah.
and make me feel bad? And, if you don't feel well right now, if you're listening to this, just hold on to the faith that feeling of health, that feeling of vitality, and knowing your body is working well for you. It's everything. Like, that's the only way that I would want to live in this world,
Mhm.
in a way that I'm not stopped or held back. And so I get that my job to take care of my body. And so I happily do that now.
That's beautiful. That's really, really impressive, and so beautiful the way you put it. And how old is your baby now?
He's 2.
Okay.
He's a very good eater.
Of course.
But he
What do you
likes
feed
meat
him? I'm
though.
curious.
Oh my gosh. I feed him, and I want parents to get this. Like, I feed him what I feed me. He eats just
Mhm.
like what we eat, because he's a little human and he has better instincts than most adults.
Right.
Because he's still pure of heart, but he does like meat. He eats lots of chicken and organic. It's all organic turkey, but he loves green beans and hummus and guacamole and smoothies and, all the
He's
good
already
stuff.
he's already into smoothies at 2 years old. So good
Oh, for
job,
sure.
Judy.
Like, he
He's
he
doing
takes them
great.
to school. I pack his lunch, because,
Fantastic.
school lunches aren't that great.
That's that's really, really good. Well, it was. I think that's the end of our episode today, and I really enjoyed recording this episode with you, Jodi. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you for having me. I can talk about food any time of day.
And would love, yeah, it was, I really enjoyed it, and it was so useful. I hope we are giving hope to so many who might feel that they have issues with their health and they need to depend only on medication and really loading their bodies with more toxicity. And really there's another way to heal any health issues, and basically it's with food, because it's really, food is what it is. It's basically medicine to our body. Some food are medicine, while other foods could be really poison to us. So thank you again, Jodi, and talk to you again soon. Thank you. Bye.
I truly hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode of the Healthy Way podcast with Shahi. You can always find any links mentioned on the show over on the show notes. If you haven't subscribed to the show already, remember to click on the subscribe button next to the podcast. If you scroll further down on the podcast page on your phone, you can tap to rate our show and leave your review on iTunes. I'll see you on the next episode.